Yeah, hi everyone. This is my AFL predictions for 2024. So we'll start off at 18th on the ladder. We've got West Coast Eagles. I think it's pretty straightforward. They were clearly the weakest side last year, even though they finished with a similar amount of wins to North Melbourne. The percentage was a bit of a gap, and I just think North Melbourne are more, more further along with their rebuild. What West Coast is that West Coast are just starting their rebuild. West Coast will win a few games at home, most likely. They may get win a couple upsets now and then if sides off their game or they perform really well. But it's going to be very. I just can't see them. Not finishing out of the bottom two. I can see nearly any other side finishing outside the bottom two, bar West Coast. They do have a few good players. I think getting back into form like Yo, he was all right during the preseason match. They did a few good couple of good players, but their best players isn't as quite as good as what they used to be, and not as good as some of the other sides. In second place, in second bottom, I should say, we've got North Melbourne at 17th on the ladder. Do I reckon that's an appropriate position they're going to be in? Yes. All right. I don't think they can finish too much higher. Maybe about 16th or 15th. It's probably the highest I reckon they can go. They are a bit further along the rebuild than what West Coast are. I just feel like they might, upset or surprise a few teams. They did lose a few close games last year and probably could have won a few extra games. And that's the main reason why I reckon, that we'll win a few extra games, which will put them above West Coast. At 16th, we've got Hawthorn. And this one's maybe a little bit controversial. A lot of people probably will disagree. And the main reason is the way they played the practice game on the weekend. They got absolutely smashed inside 50s. Their midfield's probably either tied with the West Coast or second lowest midfield in the competition. Other than Newcombe, Warple's okay, but they're not, absolutely, superstars. Every side at least has probably bar West Coast has one really, one good midfielder, at least in their side, and North Melbourne just even have probably a better midfield than what Hawthorn does. Um, Hawthorn's defence, they do have Sicily, but sort of dies away after that. They do have brought in a few good, small forwards into their side, but they don't have that key dominant forward. And that's the problem with Hawthorn. They never really ever had a key forward other than Roughhead ever since Franklin left. So that's what they need to work on. Key forward. I know they're difficult to come by, but there's no one. There's no one even an average key forward on their list. And that's the problem with Hawthorn. They've got enough good, let's say decent small forwards. That's improvement in their side. But other than that, I just don't see what the big hype is. Maybe they will win a few extra games this year. They did surprise a few teams last year. Like they beat Brisbane, I believe, and they beat Collingwood. So they have done well, I guess, some of the best sides. But are they consistent? No, and they will cop a few drummings. And I just can't see them getting past the bottom four. They might, but they might have a few surprise games where they perform well. Um, on to 15th, and that is Richmond. And this is again maybe a bit controversial. Some people may even think they might even make the eight. I don't think they have any chance to get in the eight. It's been a slow trajectory for Richmond. They did make the finals a few years ago, but they're lucky to be there. And they got knocked out first round in the finals. And they just haven't been quite the same past 2020. There are quite a few players that are retired now. I just can't really see it. They're finished in my opinion. They do have a few good players, Martin, but he's old. He's not, at his absolute best anymore. Revolt's gone, Cochran's gone, and a few other players have just retired as well. And a few other players that aren't getting any younger. So look, I reckon they're finished, and they have no really good young up and coming players coming through. They do have Josh Gibson, but he's only played a couple of seasons. So Richmond, yeah, they're going down. I can't see them going up. They'll have may have a few good wins, now and then. But look, if they finish bottom four, you know, I wouldn't be surprised. Next off, we've got Fremantle at 14th. Yeah, why have we got Fremantle this low? It's just they really haven't shown any signs of improvement with their list, like some of the other sides around them on the ladder. They've made a huge, improvement in their list, and they lost Shields, probably their best forward last year. I think or second or one of their best forwards. He's gone, and then you've really who's their big recruit? They haven't really recruited any well, and they some of the younger players may improve. Like Young, he's going to be a good player. He already is an okay player. Luke Ryan, he's all right. Brayshaw, he's all right. But they haven't really brought anyone new to the table, unless some of the younger players that are in the least can lift their game a bit more and go to the next level. I can't really see them improving anymore. So that's Fremantle for you. And on to number 13, and that's Gold Coast. Now, why are they this low? And this one's probably a bit controversial too. It's kind of tough to make a prediction with Gold Coast because they've never made finals. They just never look like it. And I've actually projected them to get less wins, which is kind of surprising. I guess because there's a lot of other teams around them that have either made improvements to their side or at a higher at a higher standard last year. I don't think they're a terrible team. It's just tough with Gold Coast because the best is decent, but the worst is just terrible. And that's the problem with Gold Coast. They've never been consistent. Um, it's just look, unless they can get all their players, fully fit and firing. I think Matt Rowell, he's going to be a gun. Noel Anderson had a massive improvement last year. He was probably their best player. And hope he took Miller does come back. Well, if he can get firing, that'd be great. So the midfield seems to be okay. Their forward line, King there, Ben King. Probably they need a bit more from their smaller forwards. The defence, they do a few decent plays, but it's not, you know, top 8 standard, I believe. So 12th, we've got Essendon. This is another one that's another team that could probably get into the 8, but it can probably finish as low as 16th. So it's quite another huge range with probably Gold Coast and Essendon, probably similar, I reckon, on paper. The midfields are, somewhat decent, but I guess, their four line of defence could be a bit more improved. I can say though that Essendon have made more changes to their side. I've actually got them with less wins, which is kind of surprising considering they made improvements. Again, I could be wrong about this considering it's a team that I barrack for. It's kind of tough to see where we're going to finish higher than some of the teams above us. We have brought in Mackay, we've brought in Jade Gresham, so I can see, and same with Jersma, is anyone else that we're forgetting. So we have made a few changes to strengthen our weaknesses. Just having another extra mid forward, I guess that will help. And then obviously with being Mackay, having that as a key defender, there is some improvement there. But as I said, we need some of the younger players to step up the next level, and that's Perkins. Who else? I think a few other players as well need to step it up. We need maybe a Davey to get in there. We need Jones to really lift up. If Roy can finish out, have a whole season again, that'd be great. Because he had a great 2022. We need him to lift. That's what we need. And we need Langford to perform well again. So look, I reckon we can make finals, but we have to have everyone on the park and fit and firing. That's going to be tough. Sydney at 11th, that's the next team I've got there. And you're probably thinking, why have I got them that low? They've actually brought in new players and they've put them lower. I just think they're probably a bit overrated. Sydney, even though they did make the finals, they really shouldn't have been there. And they won a couple games they were lucky to win. A few close games. The one against Adelaide, they really shouldn't have won that. They were lucky against Essendon. Essendon had way more inside 50s and they still won that game, Sydney. They shouldn't have won that either. And there's a few other games like against the Bulldogs too. It was a clutch win. They made the finals, but there was the percentage. You got there on percentage as well. That was due to the West Coast win. no other side really had a win of that margin. So it was just a few things that went Sydney's way. They did have brought in Grundy and Taylor Adams. Taylor Adams is getting older. Same with Grundy. I do reckon Grundy will improve their side a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be as much as what people think. And I did a few players, that are still going to be on a downcline as well, like Parker. I just think they need some of that other younger players, step it up. And I think Gordon is probably the player I would watch out for the most. He may even win the Brownlow this year. It wouldn't surprise me. So he's going to, probably carry Sydney a bit. But they need a few other players to step it up. They need Warner to go, back in form again. They need Logan McDonald to step up. Some of these younger players as well, just to, go up to that next level to challenge for the 8. And I still reckon they can make the 8. But again, they need to be a bit more consistent, and be a bit more, step it up with some of their players who just, who are okay, but need to reach to that level of good. Just need to turn it up a bit more. On to 10th, and we've got Port Adelaide. The reason why I have them dropping as well, it's just, man, this is probably going to be probably an incorrect call, I reckon, but I've had them at 10th. I mean, they're only missing the 8 by like 1 or 2 games here, but it's just, the consistency and the way they fall off, during the second half of the season. In the finals, are the worst team that were in the finals, to be honest. Maybe St Kilda, but Port Adelaide just finished off poorly, and they just didn't quite, feel like they really should be there. They got a few lucky wins, few close games last year as well. They went their way twice against Essendon as well. And just a few games that went their way that were probably lucky. That could have, could have missed out in that top 4 to begin with, and then it could have been out straight in the first week of the finals. So they do have a few good players like Butters, Rosie, a few decent midfielders. I guess they're trying to strengthen their back line with Radically, but he's not a household name. He's probably even lower than Ben Mackay. They're small forwards. Probably need to improve a little bit on that as well. And the key forwards like Dixon, the key. I'm not too sure if he's done, but they need him to get back onto form. And I just can't quite see it with Port. I could be wrong. I could be an idiot in this regard, but I just can't see Port Adelaide, you know, finishing their top 4 and be lucky to maybe even make the 8. To be honest with you, get them at the 8. Yes, top 4 probably not. And at number 9, we've got Geelong. This is the sort of side which I could probably even maybe push top 4, but can probably finish as low as maybe 12th or 13th. Just last year was a bad season for them. They had a good percentage, but they lost games. You expect them to usually win pretty easy, like the Freo game at their home ground. Freo finished poorly last season. They ended up losing that game. They usually normally win that sort of game, considering they were up in that last quarter. You expect the experienced side to be able to hold on. So that was disappointing for Geelong's end, and they lost against St Kilda too. A side that were competing for finals, they ended up losing that. I mean, it was at Etihad, so there was just a few games that were on the line, and they lost last year. Geelong, that would usually normally win. They're getting older. They haven't really brought anyone new in their side in that's going to improve their squad. Look like they might even finish lower than I, to be honest with you. In fact, this is actually an improvement on last year, I believe. So look, they might even finish lower. Port Adelaide and Sydney probably likely to finish higher than Geelong. So look, we'll see what Geelong. They usually respond well after a poor season. I know in 2015 they had a poor season, and ended up going up on the ladder after that. So, I mean, look, I could be wrong, but I reckon the writing's on the wall for Geelong. I just can't see it. There's no good news really coming through Geelong compared to some of the other sides. At number 8, we've got St Kilda. Again, I can't really think of St Kilda improving too much, but I reckon the Ross Lyon coaches that I think they'll finish much further lower as well on the ladder. They were probably a little bit disappointing towards the end of the season, but they were able to just hanging there and get an actual home final. So that was good on their part, but they did play that final poorly against GWS. Not that GWS went on to the prelim final and almost making the grand final, probably could have. So look, St Kilda, again in that side that it's hard to predict. They could probably finish as high as fifth, maybe top four, or it can be finish as low as probably 12th. So yeah, St Kilda, I mean they've got a few good players coming through. I just think they need players, not getting injured or getting suspended to probably get that home final or even make the top four. I'm not going to underestimate Ross Lyon. You never know; he could pull off a miracle with this side. But I just don't think they're just going to do it. To be honest with you, and Adelaide is at number seven. Why have we got Adelaide there? I actually reckon they're going to make an improvement, and they should have made the eight last year. Some of their players like Rochelle is going to improve, and Rankin is going to improve their side. It's going to go well. They're going to go up to the next level. Major concern with Adelaide is the defence. They just don't have that defensive structure, which is why I can't see them making the top four. They're one of the best attacking sides last year, but did leak a lot of goals, and that's a huge concern in the area for Adelaide. And, as we see with modern AFL, the defensive sides usually do perform better. And that's the reason why Adelaide missed out in the eight last year. They should have been there. The Sydney controversy, and Sydney had their own luck, which I already explained. But look, I reckon they'll make the eight this season. Adelaide, it's in Ferguson defence, and they might have a sneaky chance of surprising everyone and making the top four. At number six, we've got GWS, and you're probably thinking, oh, why you got a prelim side that finishes sixth? So it's really tough for GWS. In my opinion, they're the hardest team to predict. I think they're probably the worst side that I predicted last year. With the AFL tipping was just shocking, and it was just hard to predict. And this side, I just don't know. I just can't predict what they're going to do. Yeah, they start off poorly. I think they were near the bottom four at one stage, like Carlton, but ended up making a prelim and probably should have got there in the end to the granny, to be honest. I mean, look, they could probably finish, as high as third, I reckon, but as low as probably 10th. You just don't know with GWS. This one is why they've got the sixth, just in between, third and 10th. It's difficult with GWS. I do reckon they're more likely to finish third than 10th. But I could be wrong. At number five, we've got Carlton. Now, Carlton's another side that they weren't really convincing in the pre-season. I know it's only pre-season, but they lost against Melbourne in the pre-season match by like 5 goals, and they beat them in the semi-final last year. But they're lucky, they shouldn't have really won that game. Melbourne should have had that game won, and a couple of shots at goal they missed. And look, I mean, Melbourne should have won that game. They didn't, but they did get the win. Carlton, credit to them. I just think they need their small forwards to lift. They just don't have that. That's the problem with Carlton. Do have a good spine, a good key forward, a good somewhat defensive structure. That could probably be improved a little bit against their small defenders. I guess Doherty and Sada are okay, but they're not. Particularly with Sada, he's not the best defensively, and that's the problem. They do have good midfielders with Walsh, Cripps. But again, with Walsh having an injury at the start, will that impact their season? I'm not too sure. I do reckon they may be a tad little overrated. I still reckon they'll make the finals, fairly convincingly. They should get a home final, but will they get the top four? I'm not solidly convinced. It wouldn't surprise me if they do. They're not going to be that top two or Premier's team that everyone's talking about, or some people that are talking about. I just don't see it. And at number four, Western Bulldogs, probably arguably the most controversial, team, or not controversial team, but controversial prediction here. And that simply is, because Bulldogs just haven't really been the best the last couple of seasons. The grand final win. I mean, not grand final win, the grand final loss. They sort of dropped off a bit. They didn't even make finals last year. They really should have. They were in a great position. They should have got a home final. They're losing against Hawthorn and West Coast, like two bottom sides. Particularly West Coast, they were up in the last quarter as well. They could just got even a crappy win, but it still would have been enough, probably just to get there. And then you had a loss against Hawthorn, which could have stopped them getting the home final. So they choked there. They really did, Bulldogs. And they've got an exceptional midfield with Bontempelli, Liberatore, two of some of the best midfielders out there. In English, is good there, probably the best in terms of mobility at rucking. Mobility wise, not the best tap ruckman, but he's a bit more athletic than some of the other ruckmen. He's excellent in terms of moving around the ground. He's done well. And some of the other players that that are average, need to step up a little notch. Ugo Hagen to go up to the next level. They need Norton to kick a bit straighter too, because that's his biggest weakness, and probably the reason why he's probably not in the top five key forwards yet. I reckon he can. He's a great contestant mark, but outside of that, he hasn't really done that much, and he's kicking pretty ordinary too. So look, I do reckon the Bulldogs can't make top four. They have the potential, and I reckon they may. Based on my prediction here, but they could easily miss out the eight again, and they could finish that top four spot, which is probably where they should be roundabouts. It's just maybe their defence is probably another issue too. They have like Jones there, but they need probably a few other bit more efforts from their smaller defenders. Daniel's there; he's more of a, more of a an accurate kick. I'm getting out of defence rather than proper defending. But look, Bulldogs, look, they should make the eight at the very least. Number three, we got Collingwood. Why are Collingwood there? It's a tough decision again. Look, they could finish first. I might even miss out the top four. I don't think they'd be one of those sides that missed the eight completely. But again, they weren't particularly the best premiership side. They weren't particularly convincing with their wins. There was only a few sides they smashed last year. Compared to 2010 Collingwood, I guess it's a bit more even comp now, which is good, but they weren't really overly convincing. Their forward line just isn't there compared to some of the other sides. They won the premiership just due to their midfield and defence, particularly their defence. Halfbacks like Cripps, Dacos, they're probably the best halfback line in the comp. I do have major concerns with their forward line. They don't have any key forwards. And that's the main reason why I don't reckon they'll probably win the flag this year. They could again. They could surprise me again. I think with players like Sidebottom and Penberry, probably in their final years, to be honest, I'm surprised Penberry is still playing. To be honest, I'm really shocked. I mean, to be honest with you, I reckon. I mean, they're probably one crack at the flag. He may retire at the end of this season. To be honest, maybe next season. And some of the older players, just might start to slow down a little bit. They did lose Adams as well, and Ginnivan too. I'm not too sure how much of an impact that will happen. Probably not that much, because Ginnivan wasn't particularly that great in the grand final. Was probably one of their worst players, and they still won. So, I mean, look, it'd be maybe a slight decline, but not drastically. And they should still make the top four. They'll definitely make the eight. But nothing's guaranteed in football. Okay, number two, we've got Melbourne again. This is probably going to be another controversial take. I mean, they have the potential to be there. They can get Oliver fit and firing. It's a bit of a mystery with all at the moment. A lot of controversial player over the preseason. Probably the second most controversial player outside Taron Thomas. But with Oliver, I think when he's on, and if Melbourne can get that, 2021 form again, in the first half of 2022, they're going to be a tough team to beat. I do reckon they can be there. It's just their full line stuff them up in the finals in both matches. They dominated those two games for large periods of time and probably should have won both of them. The goal kicking really cost them that final. Really should have made at least a prelim Melbourne. Again, I mean, this is probably one that's going to be wrong. They'll be on a borderline making top four. I've got them top two. I don't know why. It's just hard seeing them with Gawn, Petrarca, Oliver, May. I just need a lift from some of their key forwards. Probably is to take them up to near that level where they were in 2021 and for the first half of 2022, because they're by far the best team up until the second half of 2022. Not by far, there's pretty decent gap. And then, number one, we've got Brisbane, and I just think Brisbane have to win the flag this year. They were so close last year and probably could have won it if Lachie Neale didn't have that play on decision go against him. And it's a must win for Brisbane. It's do or die. Their players are at their peak, and they have to win. It's do or die. Because they're going to have contract issues. They're going to players who's going to start getting older. They've already lost Rich. He didn't play in the grand final, so probably it's not going to make too much of a difference. I don't think. Zorko's getting older. Neil's even getting older, even though he won the Brownlow last year. He was probably lucky to win that, but then he got probably robbed in the grand final, which is arguably probably worse than him actually getting robbed, winning the Brownlow in terms of getting robbed. But that's a whole separate video. I mean, look, they have to win this Brisbane this year. I don't think Collingwood would be quite as motivated. I think Melbourne as well. Those two sides have won the premiership recently. I was seeing Brisbane just had that little extra hunger, and some of the other sides because they were very close. They just that extra energy, that extra motivation to get over the line. And I think Brisbane will have that enough to win the flag this season. I could be wrong. They could have a bunch of injuries. They could, the major concern is, I guess, is winning at the MCG, and they always did that there last year. They actually kicked more goals than Collingwood. Their full line performed probably a lot better than Collingwood. But it's, I guess, the midfield and defence, do they have, as good enough midfield and defence compared to Collingwood in Melbourne? And that's where I can see them maybe falling apart a little bit. I mean, look, I reckon they'll win the flag this season. Brisbane, I reckon just missing out on last year will do it for me. I reckon that'll be enough. In Collingwood, it's always tough to win back to back. What are your thoughts? Like and subscribe if you want more AFL content. Be a few videos coming up now since we're heading into the full season. Thank you for watching.